When you first dive into the series of Dandadan, you of course find yourself being hit very quickly with the fact that this is a series that is weird to say the least. You got cursed spirits and aliens, you got characters with all these powers, but you also have the very strong and steady romantic undercurrent throughout this series that only builds between the two main characters, Momo Ayase and Okarun. It quickly becomes a question that you ask yourself constantly: will this be one of those series where the pretty and popular girl actually gives the nerdy loner character a chance, and will they ever fall in love? However, as you watch season 1, you should notice that Okarun, he isn't just a Rizz master who got Momo Ayase to begin falling for him, but instead there are a growing number of girls who are falling for our lovable loner. Join me in today's newest anime explain video where we take a look at why each of the 4 girls in the series have fallen for Okarun to varying degrees, and see if any of them stand a candle of a chance in terms of the chemistry with what we see developing between Okarun and with Momo Ayase, which the answer might come as a surprise to you. For anime only viewers, this video will contain some spoilers, but like with the Momo Ayase video essay, I'll keep this only confined to what you need to know so it doesn't ruin your anime viewing experience. So with that being said, let's jump deep into this deep dive into Okarun's Unmatched Rizz. We'll start off with the most popular shipping, the one you probably clicked on this video for, Momo Ayase and Okarun, a perfect match in the eyes of many fans, and as you look over the information, it becomes pretty hard to argue otherwise, though as we'll see, there are some ships that put up a really good fight. The love between Okarun and Momo Ayase is one of the emotional highlights in Dandadan, and their compatibility, it is rooted in shared experiences, emotional growth, and complementary traits. Here's why they're a perfect match. First, you have the whole theme of shared vulnerability and mutual healing. So you have emotional scars to take into account. So both Okarun and Momo, they come from backgrounds where they felt isolated. Okarun was bullied and seen as a weak nerd, while Momo was often dismissed for believing in yokai and ghosts due to her grandmother's influence. As we see with Gigi, even Gigi didn't understand why she was doing that symbol on top of her head where she was focusing her chi and she was doing that training. Their connection, it really begins to take off with Momo being one of the first people to acknowledge Okarun's worth, and Okarun is the first boy who respects her beliefs without any type of ridicule. This shared experience of being outsiders to a degree, it allows them to see each other beyond their surface level traits. You also have the whole theme of healing through love. So Okarun's growth and self-confidence, it is very closely tied to his relationship with Momo. I would say that is the strongest aspect of their relationship. Early on in the story, he feels insecure about his physical strength and his inability to protect Momo, to a point where he even finds himself training in secret, but Momo never sees him as weak. She treats him as an equal, pushing him to believing himself. Similarly, Okarun helps Momo realize that she doesn't have to shoulder every burden alone. Their bond becomes a space where both can be vulnerable, both can grow together, and both of their insecurities and their weaknesses end up being something that is strengthened because of the fact that they are growing so close together. You also have to factor in the fact that they have complementary traits and the fact that this is the trope of opposites attract. So you have the whole thing of the nerd meeting the tsundere. So Okarun is quirky and somewhat awkward, but extremely sincere in terms of his character, whereas Momo, she's fiery, she is strong-willed, and she is emotionally guarded. This classic nerd and tsundere dynamic, it works because Momo's blunt honesty, it encourages Okarun to grow stronger, while Okarun's kindness, it gradually melts through Momo's tsundere tendencies. You see her melting in real time throughout season 1 of the anime, so I don't have to tell you that. All I can tell you is that if you're an anime only fan, it gets really up there, especially when Momo is shrank down inside of a board game and she meets a high school student, and Momo has a moment where she definitely realizes her feelings for Okarun. You also have the whole love and comedy dynamic, so their comedic chemistry, it is hilarious, it is eccentric, it is electric. From Momo's teasing to Okarun's earnest attempts to impress her, their playful dynamic, it serves as a narrative counterbalance to the intense spiritual battles that you see throughout the series itself. Their interplay of action and comedy and romance, it strengthens their bonds in a way where you feel like as you're going through the story, you're seeing a couple naturally come together and realize their feelings for one another. You also have the protective instincts and emotional intensity. So Okarun's jealousy over Gigi, when Gigi, Momo's childhood friend, is reintroduced into the story. Okarun, he feels a surge of jealousy. He's really in his feelings because Gigi, he's what you would assume to be the more traditionally cool guy and charismatic, even though Gigi is a complete goofball, representing the kind of guy that Okarun likely has been insecure about his whole life, just given the fact that he is a nerd. Someone like Gigi, from a physical perspective, probably got the girl that he had crushes on in the past and is probably the type of person that would have bullied him in terms of physically. But when you get beyond insecurity, Okarun's jealousy, it also stems from his love for Momo. He sees Gigi as a potential rival for Momo's affection, and Gigi does not hide it at all. He wants Momo, he's going after her, and Okarun, he is very much aware for it. And since Okarun genuinely cares for her and his feelings are only growing stronger, he fears losing her to someone that he incorrectly views as being better than himself. Momo also has a very protective side, a very maternal side when it comes to Okarun. So similarly, you have to look at it from that perspective. So Momo, she shows moments of jealousy and protectiveness over Okarun, especially when it comes to other girls. You got Ira and Vamola, and you got Rin. They begin to start showing varying degrees of interest in him. Momo, she has difficulty admitting her feelings, but it becomes to a point where she's visibly irritated. Everyone can see it. Anyone with eyes can see why she is irritated. It's because of Okarun. She is very possessive when other girls start showing interest in him, and it is a classic indicator of a underlying romantic attachment. This of course brings us to why Okarun loves Momo Ayase, and it is pretty simple in my opinion. There's something to be said about being the first, especially when it comes to a guy like Okarun, who for a while he was a bit of a loner. We didn't see him with any friends at the start of the series. He was being picked on for being weird, for being into the whole occult stuff, and yet Momo, in an act of kindness, stepped in when he was being bullied. It was a chance encounter and one that forever changed their lives, and even when her friends noticed it, it became clear there was a chemistry between these two characters that when you look at it from the naked eye, you would think that they were total opposites and completely incompatible. From an attraction standpoint, forget the fact that Momo is clearly meant to be viewed as being physically attractive in universe. Her strong sense of character, it does go a long way. She never saw Okarun as being a loser. She never looked down upon him. She was just as nice in nature as she was attractive in terms of how she was written. That's not to call her a wallflower or a pushover, because even those you guys who are anime only, you know that she has no problem expressing her displeasure or throwing a temper, especially when she sees, hey, this person might like Okarun. Another thing that makes her attractive is the way that she was able to build him up. If you look at Okarun at the start of the series, he's this meek kid who looks like he's scared of his own shadow, if we use an extreme example. Yet by the current chapters of the manga, he's willing to push himself past his limits in order to use the power of Turbo Granny for a third time, all in the name of saving Momo Ayase. He's standing up to high schoolers when they want to rescue Zuma and Momo, who are trapped inside of a cursed board game, and as a result of being around Momo as much as he is, from their characters, their adventures, their battles, he's improved his physical stats enough to a point you see a change in the confidence in how he is carrying himself. What used to be an insecurity about him, where he wasn't physically strong and fast, those things, they have reversed themselves, and even Momo takes notice of it when she herself has been shrunk down. In short, Momo, she built him up without ever truly intending to do so. It just happened naturally. She made him better, and it all started off with that emotional validation that we saw in the early episodes of the series. She became unforgettable to him, especially as he gained more confidence in his own strength and found himself wanting to gain strength for the purpose of being able to protect her. She was shown at times believing in him well before he ever fully believed in himself. He also has very strong feelings for her due to her strong and unyielding strength that she displays early on. She's also a character who, because of her bravery, it is one of Okarun's favorite qualities. She charges headfirst into danger, she fights for her loved ones, and she does not back down. This inspires Okarun, who aspires to be strong just like her. People tend to fall in love with those who they admire, and Momo's boldness and resolve, they naturally draw Okarun towards her. She also is somebody who sees him as an equal. Momo, she she has never belittled Okarun. She treats him as a partner, not as a sidekick or a burden. While other people in his life saw him as weak, Momo believed in the potential she saw. This is a form of respect that is a rare romantic relationship that you see in shonen series, and it's something you more so see in shoujo series, and it is something that Okarun rightfully decides to hold dear. Those things, when you add it up, make for a very reasonable explanation for why he's realized that he's fallen in love with her, in particular when you get to episode 10 and 11 of the anime, which you see in season 1 of the story, and in the Danmanra arc of the story, things they really heat up between these two, particularly once they're reunited and Okarun confesses his love, which Momo does not answer in a direct, definitive way. So you still have to wait to see where the relationship takes things. There are other twists and turns coming because it is still technically in the friend stage, but it is getting spicier by the moment. This is my pitch to you as an anime only fan. You really want to check out the manga. However, you might be asking yourself, hey, wait a second. So if everything between them is that strong, then how in the world do the other females even stand a chance? Well, here's the thing, they do, and that's the beauty of the story. None of the other girls are technically out of it when it comes to this, but they each have varying degrees of feelings for Okarun, and as you'll see, their reasons for why they've fallen for him, they speak volumes to who he is as a character and as a person. Let's start with Ira Chirori, the character you've met in the anime so far, and one of your favorite scenes with her, I know mine, is probably that scene where she's getting ready to kiss Okarun and Momo just happens to find him, and she had that moment where she was talking about the videotapes that she saw in her dad's library. Completely hilarious. However, for Ira, let's look at why she likes Okarun as well as how at times she makes Momo Ayase jealous. So with Ira, the reason she likes Okarun is because of the hero complex, if we're being honest here. So Ira initially sees Okarun as being a nerd, but she has her views shift when she sees his bravery and dedication in battle, his willingness to risk his life for his friends, combined with his sense of justice. It slowly begins to win him over to a point where she even thinks like, hey, Momo's got to have him under control. You also have the romantic awakening. So Ira undergoes a sort of a tsundere realization arc when you read the story closely, where she realizes that Okarun is a lot stronger both physically as well as emotionally than she initially believed. She becomes more self-conscious around him, blushing hard and acting awkward in his presence, and that's a clear sign and indication of romantic interest. The other thing that lends itself to her growing feelings for him is ironically one of the reasons that Momo begins to realize her feelings for him as well. Okarun's confidence in himself and the way that he carries himself in combat, it plays a big role in her attraction for him to begin to start increasing to a point where she clearly wants to be more than friends with him, and it's led to some rather funny scenes where she's a little too thirsty for Okarun, and the humor is completely done in a way where it balances everything off. When you look at how it makes Momo jealous, it's actually quite good in terms of the writing. So Momo sees Ira's growing affection for Okarun, and it only stokes her possessive instincts. Since Momo is used to being the one closest to Okarun, Ira's affection, her confidence, it sparks a subtle sign of jealousy in her, such as Momo becoming more defensive and assertive in Okarun's presence, especially when the three of them are together. We see a really great example of this in the current arc of the story, where Momo, even after she's been told by a spirit that she better not take Okarun for granted and she better acknowledge her feelings for him, she still finds herself getting upset when she watched Ira trick Okarun into saying that he was looking at her chest on purpose. You also have to imagine that seeing Ira and Okarun in some rather questionable poses a few chapters prior to that, and Ira stripping from her clothes when she was transformed, likely did not help matters either. When we get into Vamola, that's where things get very, very interesting and even crazier. She's probably the one that I would think most fans would agree got the strongest reaction out of Momo when it comes to Okarun, but it isn't just because of the meltdown that Momo had when she went off on her, for a multitude of reasons, if we're being fair, and granted they were very good reasons, but also because Vamola, when she first engaged with them, was basically written as having shot her shot, even if it was from a innocent misunderstanding. So granted, most of that is because of what her non-blood related granny said to her about finding someone strong to fall in love with when she got to her new planet, and she took that as being literal, particularly after their fight was over and Okarun was the one who she believed was the one that defeated her alone. But like you see with any series that does romance and comedy, it doesn't take much for there to be jealousy for a character like Momo, who has not fully admitted her feelings via a confession. However, let's go a little bit more into her feelings for Okarun and the ones that start showing themselves in varying degrees. So with Vamola, the reason why she likes Okarun, it's his innocence and kindness. Vamola, she comes from a very tragic past where she's experienced a lot of loss and loneliness. Okarun's kindness towards her, especially in how he treats her, with her getting a lot of gentleness and patience from him, especially when he's teaching her how to speak Japanese, it makes him a symbol of safety and warmth. And that is something that she is desperately craving because of her background. So it's not just her believing that there's physical strength in Okarun, it's also the personality. There's also that sense of protection that we were alluding to just now. As someone who has faced danger for a majority of her life, she sees Okarun as a protector, even though he is far from the macho type. His kindness and his reliability, it makes her view him as being a safe place, a safe space, if you will, in her very chaotic life, even once she's got to Earth. And the reason why it makes Momo jealous, Momo, she has shown protective instincts when Vamola has expressed her attachment to Okarun in verbal and non-verbal ways. This is heightened when Vamola gets physically close to him. Momo's reaction is the classic romantic jealousy, and though she plays it off as concern, she is also frustrated at times with Vamola's clinginess towards Okarun, and that becomes very clear. But once she learns about Vamola's backstory, those feelings really begin to start getting rolled back. Now, we'll also now go into the more unexpected challenger for the heart of Okarun, the one that, I'll be honest with you, I never saw it coming, but in hindsight, it was obvious if you read the subtle cues, and if you pay very close attention in the anime, you probably have picked up on it, which is going to be Rin, better known as Class Rep. So with Rin, the reason why she likes Okarun, it's the unconventional attraction. Rin's attraction to Okarun, it has a quirky flavor in how it's written. It's very quirky, especially when she thinks the guy's a vampire. Rather than starting from admiration, her feelings, they seem to stem from his fascination with his quirks and sincerity, which her attraction begins to really manifest when she accidentally sees him in his transformed state, which, as we all know, when he transforms, his personality changes. In many romantic dynamics, someone who is different, quote unquote, tends to stand out. And Okarun's eccentric personality, at times it does make him appealing, especially when you look at the fact that Rin did used to want to be an idol. And so seeing that side of Okarun, both sides at that, it is something that you would think played a role in her attraction, because an idol, someone in the spotlight and confident, but she, like Okarun, as people see them in their middle school, or more so on that more shy and reserved type. But Okarun also, before even transforming, because of when she's started to interact with them, Okarun is more confident. However, like a lot of things in Dandadan, there is comedy there. Again, namely, it was her initially thinking he was a vampire, and it led to one hilarious scene where she was voicing some rather interesting thoughts about Okarun having his way with her when she was convinced he was a vampire. And the undertones are there, but it's in a hilarious way. But most importantly, she flat out called him attractive too. You also have the reinforcing of the underdog appeal. Okarun's ordinary appearance, it stands out, especially as they're all in the group and you got that goofball Gigi there. I love Gigi, but he's a goofball. But as she begins to get to know him and she realizes he's anything but ordinary, his charm lies in how unexpected and genuine he is. But as we see, that relationship is more so on the friend side, but there were some outright stated moments where she's physically attracted to him. And how, in terms of how it makes Momo jealous, Rin, her attraction towards Okarun and the way that she behaves, it's not thirsty like Ira, but it is subtle in the way that it can cause jealousy on Momo's behalf. Unlike Ira and Vamola, Rin's approach to Okarun is more of a accidental flirtatious one, which it provokes Momo into more subtle acts of possessiveness, like standing closer to Okarun or interrupting moments between them. Even when Rin thought that they were disrupting Okarun's studies, you saw how quickly Momo got very possessive. And that might have been the story showing that maybe Momo was thinking that there was something else there, not necessarily Rin saying, hey, you're interrupting his studies per se, but she might have saw Rin as a potential rival. And it doesn't help that when Momo is shown sulking in bed and then she changes clothes after hearing Okarun was at her door, fixing her hair, making herself look pretty, that Okarun was carrying Rin into their home, but it's for a good reason. She was cursed at the time, so you can't really hold that against Okarun for bringing her to Momo's home. Since then, Rin again hasn't shown much interest in Okarun, not in the way that Ira has made her move in the current arc, but given Dandadan is an ongoing series, there's a chance that there's going to be something that shows itself back up at some point in the series in terms of her and Okarun. Now, we're going to take a deeper look into why Momo gets so jealous of the girls and likely future girls who will show interest in Okarun. Dandadan is building towards a verbal face-to-face confession with both parties because of the romance and comedy angle. Her jealousy does need to get explored a little deeper for that reason. So here's why Momo gets jealous. Momo's jealousy over Okarun, it is rooted in her deeper feelings of love that she is still coming to grips with. Even after she knows, like, hey, I love this guy, the jealousy's still there, even though she hasn't fully accepted those feelings. And when you look at it, her body language and emotional outbursts, they make it clear exactly where she is. She gets visibly annoyed when Ira, Vamola, and Rin to varying degrees are interacting with Okarun, especially with Ira. She interrupts private moments when she sees Okarun alone with other girls. She becomes more aggressive in battles as if to reassert dominance to remind others that she is the one closest to Okarun. Granted, a lot of those situations were her being put in a position where she had to step up to defend. She also feels flustered when she is confronted with her own feelings, suggesting her love for Okarun. It runs deeper than even she realizes, and the fact that she's even asleep and the last arc the manga just wrapped up, and she is thinking of Okarun and thinking of Okarun confessing to her, flat out saying, "Tell me you love me," it says a lot. Now, we're going to go into final thoughts now. So, Okarun and Momo Ayase's love, it is one of mutual growth and respect and emotional healing, making them a perfect match. Okarun's insecurities and Momo's fiery personality, they form a compelling romantic duo where they both become stronger together, physically as well as emotionally. The introduction of rivals in Ira, Vamola, and Rin, it adds complexity to the love story of Okarun and Momo, heightening Momo's jealousy and forcing her to confront her true feelings for him, while also structuring each girl in a way where there's not a real clear threat to Momo ending up with Okarun, though Ira, out of all these girls, might be the one who makes the toughest move towards him. For all intents and purposes, she is the underdog when it comes to trying to get Okarun's heart, because it looks like it is fated that Okarun and Momo are fated for romance. While we can't be certain how this goes in terms of will Momo find herself in a position where Okarun's sincere personality leads to a very strong challenger for his heart coming in from someone who has Ira's confidence and the personality that can truly make Okarun briefly fall for someone else, since technically Momo has not truly confessed to him yet. That remains to be seen, but the story, it is strongly implying that once Momo regains her proper size, we're going to get that big fated confession moment. The fascinating thing about these two is that their relationship, it isn't just romantic, it is transformative, with each pushing each other to brand new heights. And when it comes to Momo's character, the romance angle has done a lot for her character without it being the primary crux of the character, which to see why I say that and why I say she has way more layers to her character than just being a romantic love interest. You really want to click here to watch that Momo Ayase video essay if you haven't seen that already. And if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and checking out more videos here on Anime Explained.